Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at supermicrocomputer. It is time for another update, and today we'll be discussing the sustainability of this reversal that has started the upside in the last couple of weeks. But before we get there, I would like to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we are tracking an overall impulse that could still work out to form a new all-time high in a follow-up wave 5. And here we have a series of 1-2 setups that have formed. Yeah, here 3-1-2 setups basically, and then here we have another 1-2-1-2, and then this would be the core wave 3 to the upside, a wave 4 correction now, and we are looking for a fifth wave to new all-time highs. Now, this wave 4 technically can work out as long as we hold here the area of support between the $43.5 all the way down to the $14 level at the 50% retracement, but with a very large extension and even a reset within this correction in the wave 4, the probabilities of this scenario being the main interpretation to work out would decrease severely, and honestly there is no backup for an impulse to still work out to the upside, and we would have to shift to a more bearish interpretation. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't have the potential to form new all-time highs, but it would be within an overall diagonal pattern, which would have the implications of having much more difficult structures to be overall tracked. Now, technically, there is no backup for an impulse from a realistic point of view, because technically this could work out as another 1-2 setup, but it would be a very low probability interpretation for me in the end. Now, with that said, in this area we have a couple of options for this correction in the wave 4, and even the possibility of already having a bottom in place. And actually we have two ways we could consider a bottom in place. And firstly, we could have a larger lead, or not leading, ending diagonal forming here within the fifth wave, where we don't need to form here a 5-wave move in the wave 1. This would have been sufficient in an ABC structure in a wave 1, and we could have here even the wave 2 already done and already be in the third wave to the upside. This, however, is a diagonal pattern itself, and the structures that could be tracked within such an interpretation are highly unreliable inherently. Yeah, it is much more difficult to track such movements to a reliable pattern, to a very reliable trade setup, opposed to having an initial 5-wave move to the upside, for example, a 3-wave correction for the wave 2 where an entry would be possible, and then after the rally in the wave 3, even after possibly taking lots of profits, a correction in a wave 4 that is much more easier to expect and predict, as it even has been in this case. Yeah, from this large time frame perspective, this correction in the wave 4 would have been easy to expect to get at least here to the $43.5 level. Yeah, we wouldn't have entered in this area earlier, or not this area, we wouldn't have entered a position in a trade setup earlier. We would have looked here for this large retracement to have already started once we had a failure to extend directly higher here in a fifth wave within this area, yeah, within an extension directly here in the wave 3. And we would have expected to start a reversal after a more significant correction and push into the area of support, basically below even the 38.2% retracement. Now, since this isn't the case, this isn't applicable, at least not right now, we are looking for alternative scenarios, and that could be either here a reset within this orange interpretation, where we would have an A, B, C structure, where we would expect to form another low and reset the entire wave 4, and only then start looking for the fifth wave to be forming to the upside. And other options include a reset of the wave B in the orange scenario, which is what we are tracking here in the green interpretation internally, in a WXY pattern, in which we expect to form here still another high. And what would probably be the most ideal interpretation for the chart overall would be this interpretation, where we have a triangle forming in the wave B, or in the wave 4, yeah, an A, B, C, D, E, a sideways correction that could unfold for quite a significant amount of time. Yeah, on the Boeing chart we do see something very like this in the current correction, but after it would be complete, we would expect the fifth wave to start, and again it could work out still within a diagonal pattern, but it may form maybe a more reliable pattern than what we have here, because yeah, this is actually even difficult to be tracked as an ABC structure. And right now this isn't a focus for us. Yeah, we need some more evidence, some more sideways movements, some more corrective patterns in both directions for a more clear sign that a triangle may be going on. So right now we are focusing here between the green and the orange interpretation for now. Now, if we manage to break here in the green scenario above the $66 level, well, that would be a signal for me that this wave B has seen a reset, and I would need to start looking once again from the very beginning for the wave C to the downside. But if we fail and push directly lower, well, I wouldn't necessarily have any direct expectations for an extension higher. And in this area specifically, we have been tracking the levels of support between the $45.8 all the way down to the $30 level at the 88.7% retracement. Yeah, this is specific and unique to this chart, what we are tracking here, this level. But so far so good, we haven't broken below the area of support, and we are looking here for a wave C still to be possibly forming. Now the thing is, within this pattern, we have here our A wave up, and we could be looking here for the B wave down, but within this wave B, I would have expected to see an A, B, C structure formed. So far, within this wave C, I don't really have a full 5-wave move to the downside. So while technically it is possible to track a slightly different correction where we may be able to see a bottom, it isn't necessarily preferred compared to favoring still additional lows. And while on this chart we have been participating in this relief rally, it is not as significant on some of the other charts. Yeah, on some of them we may have actually already seen bottoms in place, like on the Hims and Hers health and chart, and on the uranium stocks, more specifically the uranium energy. Those are charts that are likely to have already formed the bottom. Not guaranteed, not even on those, but yeah, more likely than this anyway, where we haven't even managed to push here into the larger area of resistance which I have provided you in the previous video. Now, not only that, within this structure, if we really are to follow here in the orange interpretation, I could actually still see an impulse forming to the downside in this area, where I could argue this is a double 1-2-1-2 setup, a third wave down, fourth wave up, and then a couple of 4-5 patterns to complete this overall structure in this larger wave 3 in orange. But for now, we don't need to focus on this too much. We can focus internally, specifically on this area of resistance. And in the previous video, I did provide you even resistance levels for a direct extension lower within this exact structure to the downside, where we might have had here a 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this was a plausible interpretation, but we have pushed here beyond the 50% retracement, and we entered the wave 1 territory, which invalidated this idea of a fourth wave going on or not a fourth wave, a fifth wave going on immediately. Now, with that said, we have even pushed beyond that, and we seem to be heading towards the area of resistance. But from a sustainability perspective, from a slightly larger time frame, not even here we have actually a very reliable bottom in place. Even from this perspective, I would actually still prefer another low. Now, as long as we hold here the $27.7 level, the beginning of this wave A, we can still track a wave C to the upside in this area, but it is still under a high risk. We have fallen below the 78.6% retracement, which isn't ideal, but on this chart we have seen multiple times deeper retracements. Yeah, here in this bearish movement we have pushed beyond the 78.6% retracement, and once again here, yeah, well, we did it again, but now from the area of support perspective, not from the area of resistance perspective. And while that is fine and this chart has managed to reverse from these levels, it still brings into question how likely is it. Now, what I want to leave you with, well, from this area we have a couple of options. So this area of resistance remains completely valid, and I would need to see a break above the 61.8% retracement, the $43.8 level, for a more clear signal that this structure isn't going to extend to the downside. But I would actually already start being more inclined for the reversal to the upside if we manage to break above the 50% retracement, because in that case I couldn't really be tracking an impulse going on to the downside, and for that interpretation I really can only allow the 50% retracement. So we can actually even add here an overlap in the areas of resistance, and for the idea of an impulse that I would be tracking in orange, I would only allow up to the 50% retracement, and in the green interpretation I will only leave here on the chart the 61.8% retracement. Yeah, from this perspective, we need to break above that level for a signal that this wave 4 and wave 5 in green is not going to happen. From the orange time frame, or not the time frame, the orange scenario perspective, I would need only to see here the 50% retracement break, where already this would be a quite nice sign that this structure has more chances to continue to the upside to reset the larger wave B, at least for now. If we manage to do that, we may bring into consideration other more bullish interpretations, but that is not to be discussed at the moment. Now, from this area, from this time frame perspective, well, I could argue that this is an ABC pattern that could be unfolding, where in the wave C we may have an initial wave 1, yeah, and we can even look here for some ideal targets for such a wave C, and I would be looking at the moment for the 100% extension of the wave A, which is around the $36 level. That is an area we should expect to look forward to. Yeah, this is the ideal target, but as I always say, it is an ideal target. We don't need to get there and we don't need to stop there. But if we really are to form a wave C, I would probably prefer to form something like 1, 2, 3, 4th, 5th, where I would actually expect a push far beyond those levels anyway. And then in the expectation of a WXY pattern, well, that could be a plausible area to end this overall correction. Now we can leave this in and we can track it using the yellow, because this applies for both the green and the orange scenario. Right now this is still preferred to extend higher, but keep in mind, from this point we actually have a 3-wave structure complete and we don't need additional lows. And the only reason I am really preferring is that this push to the upside within the wave C has been quite short, and we haven't reached yet the area of resistance that really only starts at the $35.4 level. Now if we want to look here internally for support, we can look for the wave 2 correction within this wave C, which would allow us to track, and let's use yellow once again, the levels between the $34 level all the way down to the $33 level for the 78.6% retracement for continuation in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in a more bearish scenario, at least an ABC structure within a WXY pattern. Yeah, the next wave to the upside after this movement is more likely to happen than the follow-up in another high, in an impulse basically forming within this area. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.